Hello everyone and welcome back to another Survivor tip video. And the tip of this video is to choose your gens wisely. Being generator aware is very important, yet few survivors actually pay attention to it, and as a result they put themselves in a bad situation that results in death. This is something I see even in high rank play as well, so not only new survivors are making this mistake. Before I get more into this, I will first explain some important facts about generators. The number of generators that spawn is always 2 more than the number of gens that needs to be done. So in a normal game you have 7 generators to choose from, but you only have to repair 5 of them. However, if 3 survivors load in, then you will have to finish 4 and there will be 6 generators total. If only 2 survivors load in, then they have to finish 3 generators and 5 spawn, and 1 survivor has to do 2 generators and 4 spawn. This is important to know because it can lead to poor generator spawning that will increase the chances for the last 3 generators to be side by side. So in these situations, you have to be even more aware of which generators you are doing and where the other generators are on the map. Now let's get back to talking about a typical game where you have to do 5 generators. So in a normal game, what can happen is that if you do 4 generators, there will always be 3 generators left on the map somewhere. However, what can happen very easily is that the last 3 generators are very close together. So close that the killer barely has to move to check their progress, and as a result, can easily patrol them. Oftentimes, the reason the last 3 gens are so close together is because the killer has been chasing a survivor in that area, so not only are the gens close, but there are also no more pallets that can help save someone caught there. And this situation also happens because all these survivors will spawn on the same side of the map, so each survivor will do the gen they spawn next to and then move to the next gen and not count them or skip any gens, and as a result, all the gens are on the same side of the map. To describe this scenario of the last 3 gens being so close together, it makes it easy for the killer to patrol them. I have labeled it with the term bottlenecking. There are also many killers that will try to bottleneck survivors on purpose, making their endgame a lot easier and allowing them to get kills. So this is why it is extremely important to know about this strategy, because if you can recognize a killer trying to bottleneck you, then you can put pressure on those generators and prevent the killer from having a good endgame setup. So how can you tell if the killer is trying to bottleneck you on purpose? Well, it's pretty easy to tell because killers who are trying to bottleneck will not chase you very far from the 3 generators they are trying to put pressure on, especially if they know that survivors are trying to get those gens done. So sometimes they will chase you for a little bit and just give up chase, like this trapper here. Maps also play an important role on whether or not you're likely to get bottlenecked, because some maps are more prone to being bottlenecked on than others. For example, the 3 maps that are the easiest to bottleneck on are Azeroth's Resting Place, Suffocation Pit, and Bottom Preschool. For the first 2 maps I mentioned, the reason it's easy to bottleneck on them is because of the map layouts. Both of those maps are basically 2 rectangles connected by a corridor. So you can have 3 gens on one side, 3 on the other, and then 1 in the middle. But sometimes randomization is not kind, and there can be 4 gens on one side and 3 on the other. Or the middle gen is closer to one side than it is the other. And you can get situations where maybe even 5 generators are closer to one side, and then you only have 2 generators that are spread out on the other side. So those are really dangerous because 2 generators is not a lot of room for errors. So if someone on your team does those 2, you might be in a bad situation. Sometimes randomization is kind though, and it can give you 2 gens in the middle, but then you could have 2 gens on one far side and then 3 on the other. So in order to not bottleneck on these 2 maps is you have to split up the gens evenly between both sides. And if there are any gens in the middle, you do those ASAP in order to create more distance between the generators that are on each end of the map. And then you have to pay attention to the gens your team is doing. If I see someone has popped a generator close to me or on the same side as me, then I will usually leave the gen that I'm working on and go to the other side or do one that's in the middle. Now, the bottom preschool map is a different problem than the Azeroth's resting place and suffocation pit. And the problem with bottom is that generators love to spawn around the preschool. So the preschool has 5 potential spawn locations, with about 2 of them always gonna spawn. So, you know, there's a brown wooden fence next to preschool. The generator always spawns behind there. A generator always spawns in front of the preschool, and then a generator either spawns in the back behind preschool, on the first story of preschool, or there is 2 locations a generator can spawn in the basement of preschool. And I have even gotten variations multiple times where there are 2 generators in the preschool basement. And what most survivors will do is they'll do both those 2 basement generators. But that's not always what you want to do. Usually you just want to do one of the basement generators and then leave the other basement generator for later so you don't get, bottlenecked around the preschool or something. So that means there is 5 potential generator spawn locations, and if randomization is very bad for you, 4 generators will be spawning at preschool, with the other 3 generators being across the map, in or outside of a house, maybe in Killer Shack or in the corner of the map. So in that situation, you would want your last 3 gens to be in 2 houses that are like diagonally away from each other, and then 1 generator at preschool. Or you could just leave the 3 that are not close to preschool up, but that kind of makes a nice patrol for the killer to go through. Yes, they do have a lot of distance to go, but it's a bit easier for them to check the gens in that way. So if I ever get the preschool map, first thing I do, I check bottom preschool. I see, are there 2 generators in the basement? Where are they around the preschool and all that? And then I will start working on a generator there. I like to eliminate generators that are in front of preschool or behind preschool first, as well as the generator that is on the first or basement floor. My strategy is I leave the generator that's by the brown fence for last, because it's far away that it can create distance if there happens to be a generator inside preschool that doesn't get done. It's a good safety net generator. Now, if there are 2 generators in the bottom basement, what I do depends on the spawning of the other generators. Sometimes it is best to do both of those basement generators because it will create more distance between the brown fence generator and the generators that are in other houses. So this is like the one situation where it's okay to do 2 generators side by side right away, just because bottom preschool has a very large amount of generators around it compared to other maps who usually do not have so many generators spawning in a condensed location. A bottleneck on this map would be very deadly, so just remember when you spawn in, check the generator locations, and do your best to try and create as much distance as possible between the last 3 generators you want to do. So that's just some helpful advice to you about how to go about doing generators on those maps. Now, you can get bottlenecked on other maps very easily as well. Those are just the ones that are the easiest to get bottlenecked on. Now let me tell you how to not get bottlenecked by sharing what I do at the start of the game. So when I load into a game, I get an idea of where all the generators are, and this is where knowing map layouts comes in handy because it can help you figure out the generator locations quickly, because some generators will always spawn in the same location, and then others are randomization, but you know where in general they are on the map, so you can just look in that direction and see their little lights, and you know they're there. Doing this at the start of the game is good because the killer will be patrolling the generators looking for a survivor, so it will help you avoid being seen right away. When I spawn in, I look at my immediate surroundings and see what is close together, because sometimes you can spawn in and you see 2 generators side by side, such as on the Pale Rose, 2 generators can spawn on 1 dock. So I would do 1 generator on the dock, preferably the one that's in the more dangerous position, and then I would leave somewhere else to do a different generator and save that other dock gen for later. Now, if I spawned with someone else, I will usually do the generator with them, but if I spawn alone, I will always leave the generator I spawn at to see where the other gens are. Now, this is just because If I'm working on a generator with another survivor, then that means less gens are being worked on in that moment because I'm helping someone else. So instead of potentially 4 generators being worked on, it's only 3 generators being worked on. In most situations when survivor is being chased, that would leave 2 generators currently being worked on. And it's not the end of the world if 2 generators get done. You're mostly looking out for when you are getting down closer to the 1 generator left. What your goal should be when doing generators is to create as much distance as possible between the last 3 generators. So I always have this map in my head of where all the generators are, and I do the ones that will make the most distance. Another thing to keep in mind is to do generators in dangerous areas first, because you want your last 3 generators to be in the safest area possible. So I tend to go for generators that are out in the open, next to hills, or in bad jungle gyms or buildings first. Also look and see if any of the pallets in the area have been destroyed. If all the pallets in an area are gone, you should do the generator in that area. As I said before, you want the last 3 generators to be in the safest area possible to give you the best chance of survival. Now I just want to say, you can get generators that spawn close together on all maps, not just the ones I mentioned, because it's just randomization basically. I've seen Coal Tower maps where 3 generators are close together, and Coal Tower you could consider an easy bottleneck as well, because there's usually 3 generators on Coal Tower side, 3 generators on Killer Shack side, and then 1 generator in between, or you can get 2 generators in between, 2 in the back by Killer Shack and 3 on Coal Tower side. So it's just learn the maps, learn the layouts, learn where the generator is likely to spawn, and you will be able to ensure you don't get bottlenecked. So remember, be smart. When you start the game, don't just do the generator you spawn at. Look around and see if any generators are in dangerous locations or close together. You want to make sure to do the dangerous generators first because the killer will usually be occupied chasing a survivor. So if you do the dangerous generator first, then when it comes down to the last generator needing to be done, where the killer is more likely to be patrolling the gens than to be chasing a survivor, you will be safe. Getting bottlenecked is very dangerous because it creates an easy situation for the killer, where they just have to patrol the last 3 generators a lot, and if you don't have all 4 survivors still alive, it makes it incredibly difficult to get out. So the best way to avoid this situation is to be generator aware, and if the killer is purposely patrolling 3 generators, you need to try and put pressure on those generators. There is one perk out there that can help you avoid these bottleneck situations, and that is Deja Vu. Deja Vu says the auras of 3 generators in closest proximity to each other are revealed to you for 30, 45, or 60 seconds when starting a trial, and each time a generator is completed. If you are holding a map that can track them, generators revealed by Deja Vu are added to the map. So the most important thing about Deja Vu and what makes it pretty helpful is that it resets which auras it shows you after each generator is completed. So you will always know what 3 generators are the closest together, and at the end of the game, you will be able to see where the last 3 generators are. So using Deja Vu, you can make sure to do the best generator possible in order to create the most distance between the remaining generators. And since it continuously shows you new auras of generators that are close together, it just really helps you create distance between the last generators. So when you get to the end of the game and you see 3 generators that are nicely spread out and have a lot of objects in between them, you can feel good about the end game. You could also use Detective's Hunch to help you figure out which generators to do, but Detective's Hunch does not reveal the generators for as long as Deja Vu, and it only activates when you do a gen. Deja Vu activates when anyone does a gen. So Deja Vu is the better perk for tracking generators specifically. And remember, you can communicate with your other survivors with gestures. So oftentimes when I see a survivor doing a generator I do not want them to do, I will gesture the "come follow me" button, and most of the time the survivor will get off that generator and follow me. So using this basic communication, you can help prevent your team from getting bottlenecked. Now, if you do happen to get bottlenecked, what should you do? Well, first off, you should make sure that every survivor is at a different generator. So if you're trying to put pressure on a generator and you see another survivor there, you should just move to a different generator. Because the killer is going to be patrolling all 3 generators, everyone needs to be at a separate generator to apply pressure to them while he is moving in between them. And you should watch the killer. Maybe don't get on the generator right away when he first starts patrolling, but watch his pattern. A lot of killers will patrol in the same way every single time and will approach from the same direction. Now, smart killers will change up the directions from time to time, but you will recognize a pattern in their patrol style. Once you recognize this pattern, you can work on the generator, and then when you feel like they're about to come back, you can walk away and stay out of sight. And even if you do get hit, most of the time the killer will not chase you, because if they commit to the chase, then the last generator will get completed. And that is the biggest flaw of the 3-gen strat, is because you can't really commit to a chase or else a generator will get done if there are enough survivors alive. And that is my tip for you. Be generator aware and try to do generators in a way that you are set up for the end game and you do not get bottlenecked and can successfully survive the match. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has helped you out. And as always, good luck out there in the fog, and see you next time.